So it's been a couple days since the last upload. I did a couple different jobs Monday and Tuesday. It's back on the 69 here today. I got a lot accomplished today. Also cut off the front end of the white 17 Mustang just now, but I'll do a separate video on what I did in the past 2 days involving the 67 Fastbacks, both shells, doing a little bit of primer work. While it was nice outside, and here in PA it was in the 60s, so I took advantage of that nice weather and got some stuff done that was outside spraying, so none of the fumes were going around inside the building. But jumped back on the 69 today, got the floor supports in, the new ones, tied into the frame rails and the torque boxes, and also there is subframe connectors that I put in place also while the floor pan was out, just to make everything a lot easier and more accessible to get to clean the frame rails and weld it and have a nice weld on them. And then I also cleaned and prepped all the floor pan surface areas and sprayed primer in all those areas that'll get covered up. So let's take a look and see where we're at on the car and take a look inside and see what everything looks like all put together. We'll take a look at the front end before I hop in the car and get trapped inside. But you can see those pieces, now, I got hiccups also, how they tie into the frame from that front TCP kit through the floor supports, torque box areas, just how everything there ties in together now, and it's all welded shut. Lots of welding, but it's definitely strong. It's tied into everything, so there's not just a break waiting somewhere. And you can see how I drilled out and welded there also, just like they said on the top. That's how they want you to do it in the diagram, but also that's how you should do it. If you're running frame rail inside a frame rail, you should go past it to make it much more stronger. But as you can see, welded up that, down, underneath, and the same on the back side. That's the front of that new floor support that comes in the kit. And there you can see the inside over there, but everything's finished off, dealing with floor support areas the whole way back into the torque boxes. So we'll take a look on this side, but you can see the surface area where the floor pan is going to go is all prepped, so it's clean and nice to weld on. And there you can see the subframe connectors, which are also from TCP, that tie into everything. And they did fit really nicely up in how they were supposed to. Back along the frame rail, it fit to that curve nice and even on both sides. And they give you measurements of where the distance should be in between them. And check the distance front to back to make sure that they're both even. And they were in this one. Like I said before, I did one floor support at a time that came in the kit. That way I can leave the transmission cross member in place, tie the new floor support on one side that I cut out to the transmission plate there, cut across, did the same on the other side, cut one out, put one in, so everything tied together real nice. Jumping over to the other side, just to give a close up on both sides. There you can see everything prepped the whole way across for that one piece floor is going. Floor support on this side, everything's welded in the whole way around. And let's jump in the car. I got the toe boards on both sides cut out from where where that rust stopped, like I showed in my last video. Just cut up to where that bad metal ended and prepped already for that new toe board to go in place. So I have the new toe boards, I just need to trim them to fit in that section and then weld it all the way around. You can see the torque box area in this was really nice. So I cleaned that up, wire wheel down to bare steel, and threw a couple coats of primer on that. Threw primer on the inside of that, Also sprayed the primer up inside the rails because this new floor support runs the whole way up and ties into that new rail from the TCP kit up in that hole. So I made sure I coated the inside of that, both sides, real nice with primer to avoid rust out in the future and make sure everything's coated. Also back here in the inside of the rails, I also sprayed primer in there, a good couple coats. I really soak it in there. So now it's the end of the day, I'll let it sit in there and it'll just, it's a big puddle of it at the bottom, so it's really nice and coated. And that's pretty much it for the inside. All this other metal that you see here where the paint's flaking off, someone had sprayed some paint over the original at some point and it just flakes right off, so I'll go over that with my wire wheel and clean it off just like I did somewhat on this bottom half to get that loose stuff off so nothing's chipping off, and then you can really coat it well whenever it gets painted on that bare steel so it preserves it. But that's pretty much it for the inside. These also tie in. We'll crawl underneath these, see if you can see, but they also tie in on the bottom, so they're welded on the bottom side, and you can see where it heated up there. That's welded from the back side. So these things are welded in. This is as strong as it can be. I do recommend subframe connectors for any classic car, unless you want it to be completely original, but it does stiffen up the car. And I mean, you can tell whenever I'm in here, they're nice to sit on right now, so I can work on these toe boards real easy, but it just strengthens the whole car, especially with that TCP kit up front. This whole thing is just way stronger than it was from the factory, so you can't go wrong with this type of stuff. And again, these are TCP subframe connectors, very thick steel, and they fit really nicely, so they're really strong. There's some out there that are a little bit thin, and they still do the job, but not like these ones will. That's going to wrap up today's video. It's a good day on the 69. We'll be back on it a little bit tomorrow. I got to run some scrap, do a couple other things. I cut up the rest of that white 2017 shell. If you've seen some of my posts before, I needed that front end off of it, so I cut that off so I can get rid of that car so it's not laying around. So I'm going to take that tomorrow. And I should have a video up tomorrow of what I did in the past 2 days is involving the 67 Fastback shells. Just doing some primer work. But tomorrow I should be able to also get the toe boards in on both sides on this, prep the front of that toe board, and hopefully start on prepping the full floor pan for the car, possibly setting it in place. Probably won't be welded, but it may be setting in place at the end of tomorrow, which is a big step. That wraps up most of the inside. I got to do the seat platforms after that. But first thing I do is test fit the whole floor pan inside, which I've been asked. It does fit through the door sideways at an angle like that through the doorway. So it's nice to have the doors off whenever you're putting in your new floor pan. Just makes it a little bit easier. And if you have an extra person to help you, it's a big help because it's a big pan and it weighs a couple pounds and it's real awkward because it's somewhat flimsy. But I do them here by myself. It is possible to do it by yourself, but through the side is the way that I always do it. I'll set it in place, go underneath of it, trace out the rear frame rails with a Sharpie, the floor supports, the transmission cross member. I'll trace all those into the floor pan with a Sharpie. So I'll take that pan back out, and then I'll know where those holes need to be that I'll put in that floor pan that I'll fill with a weld from the MIG welder. Once I take it back out, put those holes in, prep the pan for the final time, stick it back in, clamp it down, screw it down in place, draw everything tight, and then fill all those welds, put the seat platforms in, and then eventually all those welds will be ground down flush, so you can't really see that that was done. That's one bonus with a full floor pan. It hides, it makes it look from the bottom side like nothing was ever changed. So if you're laying underneath the car that was restored, you wouldn't know really that it had a full floor pan put in it. If it's done right, you shouldn't be able to tell, as opposed to the halves. You'll be able to see that seam underneath from the bottom side. So that's another reason why I like to do full floor pans. Thanks a lot for watching this video and all the videos. I'm going to eventually do some during the process videos. I get a lot of requests for that. Set up a GoPro or two, or have someone help me do some filming. It's just tough by myself. But I do plan on doing that here over the next couple of months to try and get some in-action shots, maybe, so that I can really break down how to do some of this sheet metal work. So hopefully by the time I do quarter panels, taillight panel, maybe trunk floors, I'll be able to do some of that. But if not with this car, it'll be with the next car. So stay tuned for the next upload. I should have another one tomorrow. Thanks for watching it, and we'll see you then.